All right, Mr. Ahmed here. Intermediate Algebra 1.3, equations with variables on both sides. Essential question for today, how do I solve an equation that has variables on both sides? Now for these problems, the variable is going to be the same. There's going to be an x on the left and an x on the right, an r on the left, an r on the right, and we are going to have to solve it by rounding up the variables and then isolating. So, process. The steps, very similar. We're still going to distribute first. So if I see parentheses, again, 3 times x minus 4. If I see parentheses, the number outside of it needs to be multiplied. So I'd take 3 times x, and that's 3x. So this would yield 3x minus 12. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. Then we're going to simplify the expression again, combine the like terms. Okay, simplify the expression on each side. So I'm going to put in parentheses, combine like terms. And then from there, there's going to be a variable on the left and a variable on the right. We're going to bring one variable to one of the sides. Typically, to keep them positive, we will move the smaller one. Okay, then we'll use our inverse operations to isolate the variable, and then you can check your answers as well by plugging it back in. I won't check every single one, I'll check a couple here and there, mainly just to keep the video rolling. Want to keep them at that 10-minute range for you. So first one, 2r equals negative 5r plus 14. So I have an r on the left and an r on the right. I need to round them up to the same side. Like we said, to keep them positive, I will move the smaller one. Negative 5 is smaller than 2, so I'm going to bring it to the other side. Now, since they're on opposite sides, it's not combining like terms. For me to move it from one side to the other, I have to use the inverse operation. So to bring a minus 5 from the right to the left, I have to add 5r. That way on the right side, they'll cancel, and I'd have 2r plus 5r, that's 7r, equals 14. Divide by 7 to isolate, and r is equal to 2. Now we could check our work to make sure we get it right. Let's check it. 2 times 2, plugged in r, equals negative 5, parentheses, r is still 2, plus 14. Let's see if it works. 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10, plus 14. And negative 10 plus 14 is 4. So 4 is indeed equal to 4. Check mark. We got it right. Next one. Number 2. Is there parentheses? Sure is. Distribute. Distribute our 2. 2n minus 6 equals 4n plus 10. Now from here, we want to round up that variable again. We have an n on the right, and we also have an n on the left. 4 is bigger than 2, so I'm going to move the 2. Since it's a positive 2, to bring it over, to round him up, I can't just add him, because if I were to add it, 2 plus 2 is 4n. It wouldn't cancel over here. I have to use the inverse, so I'm going to subtract 2n from both sides. Cancels off. Negative 6 equals 4 minus 2 is positive 2n plus 10. Now our process, add and subtract before we multiply divide, so we're minus and 10 from both sides. Negative 6 minus 10 is negative 16 equals, those canceled, 2n, divide 2, and n is equal to negative 8. Or I could have said negative 8 equals n. Choice is ours, doesn't really matter. So, make sure you're following your steps downward, down your page. Need to show your work while you're working on these assignments, okay? So in notebook, we will show our work in our notebook. All right, number 3. Let's see, we got a 5 minus x equals negative parentheses x minus 5. Oh, this is the first one we've seen like this. There are parentheses. They're there for a reason. We do have to distribute. When there's not a number right outside the parentheses, there's just a negative, it's like a negative 1. So we're distributing negative 1. Left side is still 5 minus x equals negative 1 times x is negative 1x, and negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5. All righty. let's see here. What do we got going on here? I have a negative x and a negative 1x. A negative x is the same thing as negative 1x. Those are the same. So, if I add 1x to both sides, this problem's a little bit odd. The x's both cancel, and I got 5 equals 5. If I end up with 5 equals 5, that is always true, no matter what. Essentially, we have an identity, okay? There are infinitely many solutions. Having a little bit of trouble spelling infinitely. And the symbol for infinity is like a sideways 8, and I could say there's infinite solutions. Another possibility could be all real numbers, or it could also be called an identity. Okay? So if the variables cancel and you get 5 equals 5, 6 equals 6, something that's always true, there's infinitely many solutions. Go ahead and hit pause and take a shot at the U tries. There are 2 of them. All right, coming back. Hopefully these went fairly well. Let's see what happened. Number 4. I have a 30 plus 5x on the left, so there's nothing for me to simplify there. And over here I have like terms. 2x plus 3x is 5x, and I have a minus 5. So this one, just like number 3, we had 5x, 5x. When I subtract 5x from both sides, they both cancel. But this time, I have 30 equals negative 5. Now, up here, 5 equals 5, that's true. Down here, I had 30 equals negative 5. That's never true. 30 is not equal to negative 5. So if it's never true, that means there are no solutions. Okay? No solution. Nothing I put into this is ever going to make it true. And finally, last one, number 5. I have 6m minus 2m. I can simplify that. I'm going to do it. 6 minus 2, those are like terms. Both have an m. Turns to 4m. Equal sign. Have to distribute. We're taking 5/6 times 6. And when I take 5/6 times 6, when I multiply straight across, 5 times 6 is 30 over 6m. And minus 5 times 18, pretty big number. I'm going to actually multiply these out with a fraction. You could use a calculator if you'd like. 5 times 18 is 90 over 6. Now when I simplify these down, 4m equals 30 divided by 6 is 5m minus 90 divided by 6 is 15. All right, now this one, we're going to break the rules a little bit. 5 is bigger than 4, but if I bring this 4 over, then I have to move the 15. So you have some options here. I'm going to move the 5. So I'm going to subtract 5m from both sides. And those cancel, and I'm going to have to slide up here because I ran out of space. 4 minus 5 is negative 1m equals negative 15. Now we are not quite done because m is not isolated. There's still a negative 1. So I have to divide both sides by negative 1 to get those to cancel, and m is equal to positive 15. So a couple key things here as we wrap things up. No solution. No solution is when we end up with example and with something that is not true. 2 equals 12, okay? That means there's not going to be a solution. If we end up with something that is not true. Infinitely many solutions. If we end with something that is always true. And the example of something that's always true would be like negative 30 equals negative 30. 6 equals 6. The variables cancel, something that's always true. And one more example of something that isn't true would be something like negative 6 equals 6. That is not true. No solution. Always true, infinitely many solutions. That's all we got for today. Have a good one.